Canada's cost of living crisis is breaking their economy. Ever wondered why your favourite maple syrup or Canadian bacon is getting pricier? Could the cost of living in Canada be the culprit? Today we're going to talk about a crisis that's hitting home for millions of people. We'll discuss the impact and hear experts' opinions as well. Stay tuned. Imagine you wake up one morning and as you're sipping your coffee, you realise it's costing you more than it did last month. You shrug it off, thinking it's just a minor price hike. But then you notice other things. Your rent has gone up. Your groceries seem pricier. Even the monthly gym membership is burning a bigger hole in your pocket. This, my friends, is what we call a cost of living crisis. It's when the amount of money needed to cover basic expenses, like housing, food, taxes and healthcare, start to climb. And right now this is exactly what's happening in Canada. Recent reports show a sharp increase in the cost of living in Canada, but it's not just about numbers on the page or paying more money for your daily needs. It's more about the struggle to maintain a decent standard of living. It's about families having to make tough choices, like deciding between paying rent and buying groceries. It's about individuals working multiple jobs just to keep their heads above water. It's about students wondering if they'll be able to pay off their student loans. And do you know that it's not just hitting the low income groups? Yes, middle income families are feeling the pinch too. They're seeing their savings shrink and their dream of owning a home or going on a dream vacation fade away. So, next time you hear about the cost of living crisis, know that it's not just about the numbers on a page. It's about real people and real struggles, and it's a crisis that needs our attention. Now, you might be thinking, how does this affect the economy? Well, let's find out. While we have you here, we'd also like to give you a polite reminder that if you appreciate our content, don't forget to hit that subscribe button to show us your support. Now, let's break it down. What does this mean for Canada's economy? First up, inflation. As prices increase, the value of money decreases. This means that the cash in your pocket buys less than it did before. It's like going to a candy store with $1 and finding out that your favourite candy now costs $1.50. Bummer, right? But it's not just about candy. When inflation rates go up, everything gets more expensive. And when people are spending more on basic necessities, they have less to spend elsewhere. This can lead to decreases in consumer spending, which is a key driver of economic growth. And let's not forget about the issue of wages. In an ideal world, wages would keep up with inflation. But that's not always the case. Many Canadians are finding that their wages aren't stretching as far as they used to. It's like running on a treadmill that keeps getting faster. You're working harder, but you're not getting ahead. So you see, the cost of living crisis isn't just about paying more for your morning coffee or your rent. It's a complex issue with far-reaching impacts on Canada's economy. It affects everything from individuals' purchasing power to overall economic growth. Now, we've talked about the cost of living crisis in Canada, but is this just a Canadian problem? Or is it a global issue? Let's take a world tour and see. First stop, the USA. Just like Canada, the US is grappling with rising costs, from healthcare to education. Americans are feeling the pinch. There's a key difference. The US has a larger economy and a more diverse job market. This means they have more leeway to tackle these issues. Next, we fly over to Europe. Countries like Germany and France are known for their strong social safety nets, but they're not immune to the costs of living crisis. In fact, many Europeans are protesting against the rising costs and demanding higher wages. Now, let's head down under to Australia. Known for its high standards of living Australia is also facing its own costs of living challenges. From housing to utilities, Aussies are dealing with the rising costs. Our next stops are India and China, two of the world's fastest growing economies. But growth comes with its own challenges. In India, rapid urbanization is driving up costs in cities. And in China, the government is grappling with property market fluctuations. So, you see, the cost of living crisis isn't just a Canadian problem. It's a global issue that needs global solutions. Coming back to Canada, you might be wondering, what's the government doing about all this? Are the policymakers just sitting on their hands? Well, let's take a look. The Canadian government has been rolling out several policies to tackle this crisis. They've introduced measures to control inflation, boost wages, and make housing more affordable. But it's like trying to catch a falling knife. It's a tough and risky job. Take housing, for example. The government has introduced policies to increase the supply of affordable housing. But with the property prices skyrocketing, these measures are like a drop in the ocean. And then there's the issue of wages. The government has been pushing for higher minimum wages. But with inflation on the rise, these wage hikes often don't go far enough. So while the government is certainly taking steps to address this crisis, the question remains, are these measures enough? And more importantly, are they working? It's a tough call and opinions are divided. But one thing is clear, tackling the cost of living crisis is not easy. Tackling the cost of living crisis is not an easy task. It requires a careful balancing act between various economic factors. And that's why it's so important for us to stay informed and engaged. Because at the end of the day, these policies affect us all. So don't just take our word for it. Let's find out what the experts have to say about this crisis. Economists and policy experts have been closely monitoring the situation. First up, we have Trevor Tombe, an economist at the University of Calgary. He suggests it might be hard to address the root problem of inflation quickly, so governments need to be honest about recognising clearly and explicitly that there's not a lot that can be done in the very short term. Next up, we have Benjamin Reitzes, a senior economist at the Bank of Montreal. Well, he believes there is no need for further rate hikes in Canada, as we're likely to see ongoing disinflationary pressure. Andrew Grantham, a senior economist at CIBC, points out that even once inflation gets back down to the Bank of Canada's 2% target, that doesn't mean prices are going down. It simply means that prices will keep going up, but at a more manageable rate compared to where they are now. There's another one, Douglas Porter, chief economist from BMO. Do you know that he's worried about rent? Yes, he said, guys, this is the fastest rent increase Canadians have seen in over 40 years. So yeah, opinions vary, but all these experts agree on one thing. Tackling the cost of living crisis needs a multi-pronged approach. It's not just about treating the symptoms. We've got to get to the root of the problem. Now, we've talked a lot about the problems, but what about the solutions? What could be done to tackle the cost of living crisis? Firstly, we need to look at wages. If the cost of living is rising, wages need to keep up. This could mean raising the minimum wage or encouraging companies to increase salaries. Still, it's not just about earning more. It's also about spending less. Well, this could involve measures to make housing more affordable or to reduce the cost of essential services like healthcare and education. As we discussed earlier in the video about the role of the government, they are trying all these things. Still, policies can be implemented to control inflation and stabilise prices, but these need to be carefully designed to avoid unintended consequences. Now let's not forget about us, the consumers. We can make a difference too. Yes, by being informed and making smarter choices, we can help drive demand for affordable, quality products and services. But keep in mind, there's no one-size-fits-all solution. What works in one country may not work in another. And that's why it's so important for us to keep learning. keep discussing, and keep exploring solutions together. So we've covered a lot of ground today, but before we wrap up, let's lighten the mood a bit. Ready for some interesting facts about Canada's cost of living crisis? Here we go. Fact number 1. Did you know Canada is the second largest country in the world by land area, but its population density is one of the lowest globally? Yes, this means there's a lot of space, but not everyone can afford to live where they want due to high housing costs. Fact number 2. Despite the high cost of living, Canada consistently ranks high in terms of quality of life. It's a testament to the country's strong social system and natural beauty. Fact number 3. This might surprise you. The most expensive city to live in Canada isn't Toronto or Vancouver, it's Yellowknife. This city in the Northwest Territories has high living costs due to its remote location. Fact number 4. Ever wondered why the healthcare in Canada is so expensive despite being public funded? It's because healthcare includes more than just doctor's visits. Things like prescription drugs and dental care can add up. Fact number 5, last one for today. The Canadian dollar coin is known as the loonie because it has a loon, a bird, on one side. But with rising inflation, some Canadians joke that the value of the loonie is flying away like a bird. And now we turn it over to you. What do you think about the cost of living crisis in Canada? How do you think it compares to the situation in your country? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for watching.